Alright, part 2 in the Suzuki build. So, I've been working most of the morning and I pulled off sort of all the front of the vehicle, sitting around. And I've just been having a look at how the engine's going to end up sitting in here, and I think we're going to have a couple of dramas. I think the alternator's going to have dramas to sort of try and fit here, but we're going to have a whole heap of extra room sitting right here. So, I think, as far as the engine's concerned, I'm going to have to move the alternator and put it where the compressor is to get it to fit. I'm not going to worry about anything about the front of the fan, because I'm just going to mount a rear radiator on the tray somewhere, probably on the back. I'm not too worried, and I'll just have a couple of toolboxes and whatnot sitting around here. That'll be fine. Now the next problem I have is how it's going to fit inside this tunnel. There's not a hell of a lot of room. Now I can't really modify anything around the driver's side because there's no room for that. The passenger side, on the other hand, there's a fair bit of room, and I'm lucky because on the passenger side I'm going to need some extra room for the gear lever linkages. So I'm thinking I'm just going to come over here and just cut out some box metal. So we'll go sort of down like that, and we'll just make something that sort of comes down here, and I'll just move the seat back a little bit more so people aren't feeling too cramped if they want to come in for a bit of a mud run. That'll be the easiest way to go. Now the other problem I'm going to have is that cross member in the middle there. So I'm thinking chop that there, and I'll make something that runs a little bit lower and up around. Now that's not going to be a drama because I've got some ARB Old Man Emu 2-inch lifted springs coming to help deal with the lift. I was going to put some Hilux springs in that I had, but it is really expensive to get those things over from America, so fuck that, don't need them. So we'll get some lifted ones, we'll put them up on there. The next problem I think is going to be the sump, getting it to sit here around the front, because I think the front of the engine, where the radiator, you can see where it normally used to mount here, I think I'm going to have the front of the block pretty much sitting flush with that. So I know it's not ideal because the weight's going to be over the front of the diff, but hopefully with these springs it'll make a bit of a difference, and since my RSN's already pretty heavy anyway with that steel tray, it'll make a bit of a difference. So I think we'll get the front of the block sitting somewhere around here and have that going backwards there, and we'll have the radiator and the oil cooler sitting on the arse end of this vehicle, and that way everything should sort of work out a little bit better, I think. So the next question is how I'm going to mount the engine to the front of this, because I should really start trying to do that as opposed to anything else what I'm thinking about. So we'll get that mounted first, and then we'll worry about cutting in a big box of metal in here so that the passageway for this will be fine when it goes back on top. Getting the shaft made up, so that should be finished in a week's time, and I'm getting some brake lines made up too. So that old crappy one that used to run around the front here that all the Suzukis have, they're rubbish. Getting another one made up, so it's going to go up around here and then come down, and I'll just make another one that'll come from there down to the other front diff as well, come to the other side. And these diffs are leaking a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. That can be the last thing I'll worry about. So the next thing I have to do is replace the engine mounts, because being an old diesel, they've rattled flat. Got some brand new ones. They flogged $150, $60 for each one. It's fucking theft, but I suppose nobody uses them anymore. From Repco, fuck them. So there's some new ones, and I've got to do the clutch as well. So I'll diffuse the what do you call it, the gearbox and whatever not, and put a new clutch plate with fingers and flex plate, clutch kit anyway. So we'll do that. So that's pretty much on for the day. So hopefully by the end of the day I'll have these engine mounts put on, I'll have the gearbox off, I'll have the compressor and the alternator removed and organised some other way. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll worry about the ancillaries later. I just want to get the engine and gearbox mounted first. and get it sitting in there with that shaft. Now I've had a bit of a look underneath as well, what's involved to move this thing, and I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. So, you know, I just need to move this backwards, heaps of room here, and I don't think I'm going to have to move it much further than a couple of inches. So where the bolt is there, I might just have to move it there, which is actually going to work out better because this shaft here, the rear tail shaft, is going to be a little bit more fucking how you going with the 2-inch lift. These old springs are fucked, so fucked. And these shockers that we have in the top here, pretty not bad either, but I think I'm going to have to make a traction bar for this rear diff. It's moving around a little bit now. See the give? Moves up and down. So that's not really moving too much, even though it is fucking a little bit. I need to tighten all that inside there. So, and I'll have to replace that diff with a that tail shaft to the front diff with a CV jointed tail shaft, I think, because that's going to be a little bit too how you going, definitely. So that's a couple of hours work. I think we'll start with that. I'll start grinding everything apart and getting all that ready. And the last thing I have to do are these body mounts. I have to redo them. When I welded these in, I did them as a kid years ago, and I really did a terrible job because I just left the original one and I just cut it open and then welded another bolt onto it, sort of thing. So half of these are just about to snap, so I don't really feel too confident driving this thing around with fucking engine mounts like that. So fuck that. I'll take this body off, chop them all up, and fucking get a new tag put in there. Maybe the easiest way to go. Yeah, I'll just keep trudging.